If you are looking at the wrong haystack, you'll never find the aircraft.
This aircraft was not being prepared to perform a landing.
What does Taylor Swift want?
Some have come and vowed never to come back.
Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to the latest episode of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Hazwin Hassan. Today marks the 10th passing year since the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. The flight carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members disappeared on a night flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing in what has now become one of aviation's biggest unsolved mysteries. Just last Sunday, families of the missing passengers and crew members gathered for a vigil and remembrance event in Subang Jaya, still waiting for closure. Transport Minister Anthony Locke, who was present at the event, reaffirmed the government's intention and commitment to resume search operations. The Transport Ministry says it would seek the Cabinet's approval for the government to sign a new contract with the US-based marine robotics company Ocean Infinity Limited. Their previous contract had ended in 2018.
Yes, and through this, a no-fine, no-fee proposal is expected to be discussed between Ocean Infinity as well as the Malaysian government, in which if Ocean Infinity succeeds in finding the missing MH370 plane, then the ministry will be bearing the cost. Now, as there have been, a lot of progress as well as new advancements in our technologies available today, this new development is hoped to provide more answers in the search for truth, especially for the families who have been waiting to understand what happened for so long.
We are looking forward to know more, and hopefully dapatlah jawapan tu. InsyaAllah, yeah.
And how important is this search on theme to you as a next of kin?
Okay, I think as a human being kan, kalau kita kehilangan sesuatu, kita will definitely nak tahu kan apa jadi kepada benda yang hilang. Whether or not sebab ini kan melibatkan nyawa ahli keluarga. Whether or not kita dapat tahu mereka hidup ke, mereka tak hidup ke, that is behind the story. Tapi kita nak tahu apa benda yang berlaku sebab benda ni kan besar. It is huge to the aviation industry. It is huge as a normal human being pun kan. So this is tak sepatutnya berlaku, missing kan. So memang kita nak tahu jawapan.
I do understand the fact that the Malaysian government cannot spend unlimited amount of money doing this search. But the no cure or no fine, no fee option is a very good option because you only pay a committed amount if the ship is found or the plane is found. Yeah? So I think that is a very good win-win situation for Malaysia as well as for us families. Because we want the search to carry on, but we also have to be realistic. We cannot expect the government to spend billions searching for this plane. It doesn't make sense, But in this no fine, no fee option, you are committed to a fixed amount. There's no cost overrun. Once you agree to the fixed amount, it's up to the party that is searching to win that amount if they find the ship. And the risk is on the party that is searching, not on the government. So that is a very good option. We're very happy that the minister has given some encouraging words in regards to that. Of course, it can be found. It's a matter of time. There have been ships lost that are found after hundreds of years. So we cannot say that this plane will never be found. There are actually plans underway now to map the whole of the world's oceans. So when they map the ocean floor, at some point in time they will find. But whether it's in my lifetime, we cannot say.
And without further ado, I would like to welcome our guests that's here on set today. First up, we have Datuk Sri Azharuddin Abdul Rahman, formerly the Director General of the then Department of Civil Aviation, DCA, and now known as Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, CAM. Welcome, Datuk Sri, to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you for inviting me to this program.
Right. Next to Datuk Sri, we have Sir Aslam Bashar Khan, who was formerly with Malaysia's Air Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, and also was one of the investigators for the initial search of MH370. Welcome, Aslam, to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you very much.
So, gentlemen, maybe we can start the discussion off with this first. Both of you were there in 2014 itself. when the news broke about a missing MH370, people were still trying to find out or, understand what this whole news is all about. From that day up until 2018, I just want to understand this. How has the cooperation between various international entities as well as Aircraft Investigations Unit evolved over the years? Maybe we can start with Datuk Sri first.
The cooperation among the countries that came and helped us to find MH370 was the biggest ever cooperation in finding one aircraft. Although it's a big aircraft, no doubt. If you put the Boeing 777 on the football field, it covers from the penalty spot one end to another penalty spot one end. The wingspan is as wide as the football field. But the place where it went down is bigger than what we know. It's the Indian Ocean. Even from the start, the day when we declared the loss of MH370, we already be assisted by our neighboring countries. Vietnam were there, Thailand, Singapore, and all together by the end of the search, suspension of the search, there are together 26 countries that help us. Using if I'm not mistaken, 82 vessels, 84 or 86 aircraft been used, and for the first time, we see that the Americans planes, their military planes, the Air Force, stand seated side by side with the Chinese aircraft. You won't see that in everywhere else, but for the sake of finding aircraft, they forgot who they are, where they come from, but together they help to find the MH370. And the cooperation, of course, with our neighboring countries, because we have agreement on the search and rescue, which all the countries, we have actually 10 such agreement, because we are neighbors to Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand. That's already 5. And then we have another airspace that we control over Sabah and Sarawak. And we are neighboring to Indonesia again, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines, all that. So we have that kind of cooperations that is being embedded and required by the International Civil Aviation Organization in the search and rescue of aircraft. But this MH370 search is bigger than what we know. So it requires more people, more countries to come and help us. Example like on the 15th of March, when we declared that the aircraft are either in the northern or the southern corridor. The northern corridor, the area that we are talking about is from Laos up to Turkmenistan, I think, up to the north, about 16 countries, up in the area of 16 countries.
That's just the northern corridor.
That's the northern corridor. Southern corridor, only 2 countries, Indonesia and Australia, because most of the area that they analyze where the aircraft have landed is in the Indian Ocean. So 2 countries, yes, we have good relationship with them, but for the northern corridor, we have cooperation, and they reported to us that they have looked at each of the country. We have to send diplomatic notes, and that's something new to us, sending diplomatic notes to us to look for an aircraft.
Yeah.
And all of them came back and said negative. They did not have any signs of MH370 that crashed into the country.
A follow-up to it, in hindsight, because of all this, SOPs in place, right? It kind of also hampered in terms of the turnaround time to get the information of sorts. Like over the years, in relation to this, do you see the SOPs also being more efficient?
I think the SOP works. Every country have to abide to SOPs. So when any of the search that been declared, any distress of aircraft been declared, and everybody do what they have to do in accordance to the agreement.
So
that's
there's
something
no
that
issues in relation
there's
to
no issue of they are not cooperating or they refuse to cooperate, things like no. I think that's very important because as you know that things can happen anytime, and it's always happened at the wrong place at the wrong time. So maybe this time is our aircraft, next time is their aircraft, so they have to be prepared all the time. Yes, technological equipment plays its part. Now they are more sophisticated. They have bigger aircraft, faster aircraft. Also the ships. I mean, talking about aircraft that do the search.
Right.
But then again, depends where you look for an aircraft, because sometimes the aircraft they use have to be not only equipped but able to fly to that area and come back safe. Example, the place that we are looking at the aircraft, the last spot that experts are saying that probability that's where the aircraft is. It is so far that the aircraft that fly from the nearest airport in Australia have to fly about 2 hours to reach the spot, and then spend the maximum 1 hour and have to come back again, because if they takes longer than that, loitering around looking for what they want to see, they might not have enough fuel to come back.
Right.
So it's very critical during the search. We have to coordinate with the aircraft and the vessel, where they are, how long they're able to do the search, and we do in a grid fashion, that one aircraft will do one part, the other aircraft to do the other part. All that have been done by personnel who have been trained for search and rescue. It's very important to do that, and this personnel have to go through specific courses to be qualified as search and rescue officers, coordinating the aircraft and the vessels for the search.
Right. I'd like to, relay this question or extend this question to Aslam. Again, would you share your experience in working with representing AIB and having to, address this particular case that is entirely new for that period of time?
It was a challenging period for all of us, but we work under the framework of ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, and there's one section called Annex 13 that covers aircraft incident and accident investigation. So this is has been adopted by Malaysia and most of the countries, and SOPs are then developed based on this Annex 13. So when we were working with investigators from the different authorities, the similarities of regulations and investigation protocol made it a lot easier for each party to share information with the other, and it was very enriching for our team to be able to learn from countries like France, BEA, where they had an airplane, Air France 447, that had crashed in the Atlantic Ocean in 2009. The sharing was immense and certainly very beneficial for our team and also the rest of the investigators that were assisting us.
Right.
And during that time, throughout the whole investigation period, were there moments where there was literally a point that turned sour, where all the investigators had to, circle back with all the data that they've gathered, and how do you move forward from that? Because from a layman point of view, we rarely see the visibility of how the AIB works. So we want to understand on this aspect. When you come to a a brick wall, how do you resolve a challenge?
Fortunately, in the air accident investigation fraternity, we deal with mature, experienced personalities whose objective is to discover what caused the accident. And so the focus is always on the accident and what can be done and how one can contribute in achieving those objectives. So if there is any difference of opinion, it's respected. However, as the science behind this is always going back to facts, and so we focus on the facts. And we find that actually, I don't remember, any occasion that there was too much of differences of opinion that it caused any conflict. None at all.
I see.
What about some of the backlash or perhaps difference in opinion, as you put it, that you received maybe a little bit after the first phase of the search started? I mean, obviously it went on for months, right? And every day we were waiting for answers from the press conference that was going on every day. I mean, I remember seeing you, Datuk Sri, on the TV screen for practically months every day. Do you remember when it was that it first started like dawning upon yourselves as investigators, as people directly involved in the search, that this is going to take a little while, because we're still not, there's a lot of loose ends and we're nowhere near the end.
Right. And also, you've got that 1 month to kind of like come up with a preliminary report. So, from day one up until the end of that deadline, what was it like? How do you deal with the backlash? How do you deal with the the noise, basically?
MH370 was unique investigation. In any other accident, our work as investigators start when we go to the crash site, look at the wreckage, and start identifying from that moment to identify what could be the possible contributory factors for that particular accident. In the case of MH370,
there was no crash
actually, the search did wear us down because we didn't find the first debris until 500 days later. And the debris pieces, I'm sure there were hundreds, were floating around in the ocean. And the waiting period from day one when we started searching for the airplane and not coming up with answers because we just couldn't find a debris field despite sending so many ships and airplanes out to search for the aircraft. It was challenging, especially so when my colleagues needed to provide explanation to the family members. 239 lives were lost. One 777 aircraft, which occupies the size of a football field, was missing. It had never happened before. It was trying time, and I guess it was a learning process both for us because we did not expect it to take the length of time that it did in looking for the aircraft.
And then zoning into the day 500, when you actually found the debris, how do you actually confirm that?
The first item that was found was the right hand flaperon. It is It's a component from the right-hand side wing, rear part of the wing. And this was found almost 500 days after the accident, and it was found at the island of Reunion Island in the southern Indian Ocean. It looked like a flaperon from the photos that we had seen, and we were not sure 100% that it was from Malaysian 370 at that time. However, this flaperon was shipped to France, and it was reviewed by the French investigators together with our Malaysian investigators. And after looking through at some manufacturing markings that were there on the flaperon and several other features, it was confirmed that this was from 9M MRO, which is a registration of MH370.
Okay.
Registration of the aircraft. Aircraft components, aircraft parts, normally when they are manufactured, they are one big part made up of smaller assemblies, and the bigger part will have a data plate. So the data plate identifies clearly that the item is from a particular position on the aeroplane. When that is not available, we can always look at the manufacturing markings on the sub-assemblies.
Right.
Many sub-assemblies make up the component. So in the case of the flaperon, the markings that were on the sub-assemblies allowed us to determine that it was manufactured for the aircraft 9M MRO.
I see. And this flaperon is one of 30 different parts that have you found from the search and been identified, right?
Yes. There were more than 30 items that were found. I can't remember exactly the exact number right now, and but every one of the item was examined. Some were larger than others, and I remember very well the flaperon, and also the work that we did identifying the right-hand outboard flap assembly that was found. We found a section of the right-hand outboard flap assembly which was discovered on the island of Pemba in Tanzania. And
so that's further out, even from the initial location where you found it, is the missing debris.
Absolutely. This was found, the first item was found about 500 days after, drifting in the ocean, and this flap, outboard flap was found probably, I think, about more than 2 years after the incident. So it traveled much further. And the oceanographers had done an excellent job in plotting, based on the weather patterns and historical data that they had, how the floating debris would drift, over time. And Tanzania was one of the areas that was also, on their plotting. It was the most northern area where we found the debris, and but of course it was well within the drift pattern. Zooming back again onto the flaperon and the flap assembly, these two were also sitting side by side on the right hand wing. And during our investigation, we found some damage on the right hand outboard flap. It's on the inboard side. Inboard meaning closer towards the wing root area. And Similar damage was also observed to be in existence on the flaperon in roughly around the same area.
Right.
And further examination of the right-hand outboard flap, we carried out some internal investigation by removing some panels, and we found that there was some secondary structure that was damaged by contact, and our examination together with our colleagues in Australia, ATSB Australia, had indicated that such damage can only occur if the flap was in the retracted position. So retracted position is when the airplane is flying in cruise. Extended position is when the airplane is, being prepared for landing.
Right.
Yeah. So that was an interesting observation, and so for us, it indicated that the flaps had not been selected, to perform a landing.
Right.
So it was mid-flight.
It was in that position. It was in the cruise position.
Would you say that it was at a certain altitude, since it's not landing anytime soon based on how you found the debris? So
in conclusion, this aircraft was not being prepared to perform a landing.
Right. Okay.
So there are some theories of control ditching. I mean, it's a theory, but the facts that we observed on the recovered debris indicated that the flaps were retracted.
Earlier on, Sir Aslam, you mentioned about, you kind of highlighted the sea and air collaboration there, right, with the oceanographers having to map out the topography of Indian Ocean in terms of how you can even locate the debris. We also have an ocean expert in which we had an earlier interview with University of Malaya Institute of Earth and Ocean Sciences Senior Fellow Professor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Azizan Abdul Samad. Let's hear what he has to say, especially in terms of what important role he sees Ocean Infinity play moving forward, and how he thinks we could address the challenges and limitation of deep sea exploration, especially with the passage of time given into consideration.
The company that was contracted to do the search was a subsidiary of Ocean Infinity in the first place. So they were the one who did, the contractor who did the search for the three countries, okay? And if I'm not mistaken, the cost of the search is 650 million RM, maybe, around there. So it's not a cheap process. So first thing, Ocean Infinity, because they did the robotics and all this sort of thing, they did transverse the area that they were searching. So they are the one who have the data, most of the data of the sounding that they did in terms of searching at that first search. Okay, so they have data. So if success is measured by past experience, they are the best hope that we have. Otherwise, you're going to start and reinvent the wheel again. You have to go in again, and that's all.
I see, Dr. Shazaruddin, you have some notes that you want to share with us in reply to this.
Yes, the professor did mention that the last search was done by a subsidiary of Ocean Infinity, which I beg to differ, because when we signed the agreement, I did sign the agreement, of course, with the approval of the cabinet, end of 2017. I cannot remember the exact date, but it was almost the end of 2017, because we went into the cabinet meeting. Well, it's the last cabinet meeting of the year. We signed with Ocean Infinity, and the CEO now, Mr. Oliver Plunkett, was the CEO then. Okay. So I think it's Ocean Infinity that carry out the search. it was done under no cure, no fee as well. So there's no cost to the Malaysian government then, because they have not able to locate any part or any debris, or we call it a debris field, because we expected the aircraft to be not in one piece on the seabed. Again, I'm not sure what the professor means by costs us 650 million. So I'm not sure, but it was no cure, no fee.
Right.
Yes, they are the best hope, because at that time they have the most sophisticated equipment, the underwater AUV, underwater vehicle, that scan the seabed. They are not like the previous company who has only one AUV to scan the seabed. They have 3 side by side, one side of the mothership 3, the other side 3, and all scan at the same time. It saves time, and they move faster than the previous search been done, and all analysis is been done on real time on the mothership. So it save a lot of time and energy, because the last search by another company, the analysis was done on the mainland. They have to download what they scan to the mainland in Australia. Yes, they are the best people, but what we heard on 3rd March during the Remembrance Day in Subanjaya, Mr. Naden, he talks about the search to be done by Ocean Infinity. Of course, he's very happy about it. He did show to the public the area of search to be done by Ocean Infinity if they be again agreed by the government to do it. It looks like the agreement will be there. It is another new area. It's further more further out of the what we call the 7 arc. The 7 arc. This is a famous 6 arc where they have the 6 handshake, and the 7 arc is where the expert analyzed that's where the aircraft went down, and further to the west and further to the east. The area of probability where the location of
so
the
these 7 arcs cover a range from between somewhere in the South China Sea
no
to the
South
Indian Ocean?
Southern Indian
just
Ocean.
the South Indian
Ocean.
Okay,
Yeah. We have searched the middle part of the 7 arc, and Ocean Infinity, when they searched in early 2018, they went a bit wider, and now the analysis was saying that look further apart, more area than what we have
in
searched
terms
before.
of the area, the size of area, what are we talking about here? Like
the last time is
if
about
you can make
120,000 square kilometer. I think this is about it's about the same, about 120,000 kilometers. I cannot remember exactly, but I'm sure that will be the contention of the place where they're going to search. And in the same briefing by Mr. Naden, he says that there are about 5 or 6 experts and organization of experts combined and analyze it together, agree on that particular area of search. Because it's very important for them to concentrate on which part of the seabed they're going to search.
Right.
all right.
It's not something that you are free to go wherever you like.
Understood. Well, before we play the next clip by the professor, I just want to add, he did mention that the task will be quite a formidable one, because you have to consider, the topography change over time, because you've got sand, sediment, maybe the plane or wherever it sits on any seabed. If it sits on a slope, it might go further. So the search area might be expanded of sorts. So these are some of the consideration. And another thing that he said in terms of the factors is that at the moment it remains unknown, because it has already been 10 years although he did mention that Ocean Infinity is a good, I mean, placing reliance on Ocean Infinity is great, but you have to bear in mind the reality of not being able to find the plane immediately.
I mean, the probability of you getting it is, miraculous, at a miracle level. Unless, what I'm trying to say is that, you see, there are deep range radar, long range radar operated by the military. Australia has one, because they track ballistic missile, they track, huge. I mean, they want to know whether ballistic missile is coming onto them. So the military has something more sophisticated. So unless Ocean Infinity have access to some of the data during the period where MH370 was flying, then there is a chance. But if it is just what you call depending on the ping from the satellite, which is what we were saying that was what is available in the public, and that was what was used to try and locate where the possible crash of MH370. That one has a huge error in comparison to, let's say, the long-range military radar. So what I'm trying to say is, there either the Americans with their satellite, or basically it's the American, because the one in Pine Gap that is being run by the Australian is an American base. So they may have, what I'm trying to say, I'm just speculating, okay? They may have the long range signal, but whether it is shared or not, that's another problem. But I think, you have to go through the data to find out.
So access here is very much a big issue still in terms of like technological kind of like equipments or tools to be utilized to ensure that the search is conducted very well.
Well, if you can locate the within 10 kilometers or within 20 kilometers of where the plane falls, you have a higher chance of finding it. I mean, they were saying that they're able to call. I mean, I was going through Ocean Infinity. They were saying that they were able to find some ships, some submarine, and all this sort of thing. But you must always remember, if you have a military submarine, they are quite good location, because the military submarine will go and tell your position all the time to the base. So in terms of the area that you need to search is smaller than what we have now in comparison to, you say it's a large plane, but in terms of what it is, that's the area that they search is bigger than Malaysia, trying to find the plane in that area.
Yeah. So we've heard what the Prof had to say, a few things that he raised, satellite ping not being reliable enough if we were to continue the mission. And he also mentioned about having access to the military radars, because the long-range radars that is able to detect the last, basically, location of the plane before impact. Of course, there are many possibilities in terms of whether or not we can use these two variables, but we want to start asking Sir Aslam first in terms of how he would react to Prof. Aslam's suggestion.
It was interesting listening to the professor's opinion. I say again, it's his opinion. I like to stress that a lot of work, effort by many agencies went into determining the location of the resting place of this aircraft. Despite us not finding it, in the previous searches, but a lot of effort by many experts from various fields went into determining this area, the latitudes and the longitudes where the end of flight would have happened. And let me assure you, all agencies, civil and others, had contributed, their expertise in determining that area. This was about 9 years ago.
Yep.
All right. And I invite Professor, perhaps, when we do restart this search, kindly contact, people at the persons at the Ministry of Transport who would welcome to engage with him for his views.
Right.
Okay, so Datuk Sri.
Datuk, yeah. Your reaction to that?
To determine the area where the search, it takes a lot of effort by the best that we could gather at that particular time. It was called the Special SSW, Special Search Working Group, SSWG, comprised of mainly the Australian oceanographers, the Scientific Defence Commonwealth, something, I can't remember the exact name, and the ATSB, the Air Transport Safety Board of Australia, the French, where we call it the CIRO, Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organization, something like that. And we invited the French, who were able to, as mentioned by Aslam in the beginning, that able to locate Air France 447 in 2009 in the Atlantic Ocean. We have we also are part of the team because it's our aircraft. The Chinese also have been invited; they're also part of the team, and it's headed by Australia because Australia volunteered to lead the search because it's near to their country. So Boeing also in the team. Boeing provide us with the technical requirement or whatever it is, performance of the aircraft, and also the engine manufacturers, Rolls-Royce from UK. So it's quite a team, and they went down. I'm not going to tell you how they do because I also don't understand mathematically, but it started from Inmarsat. Inmarsat also part of the Inmarsat satellite because Inmarsat satellite were used by Malaysia Airlines to download the condition of the aircraft to Malaysia Airlines every half an hour. It's called ACARS, Aircraft Communication and Reporting System, every half an hour. Yes, the first half an hour there was a download, but not the second, third, fourth. But they suspect something is not right with the equipment or the download communication equipment, but nevertheless they look further into it. That's with the help of the experts that I mentioned. They even know when the aircraft use the last bit of fuel, because last bit of fuel will send a signal to the satellite. I'm last bit of fuel. My first engine already flame out. That means already flame out. I think the right engine first, and then the second engine first. When there's no engine operating the aircraft, there is a emergency, we call it air-driven generator, that drive the emergency equipment for the pilot to fly the aircraft, the emergency equipment on in the cockpit. At that particular detail, it was known when. Well, the biggest challenge is where this thing happens. So that's where they agree that at the 7th arc, at the place, first they look further north than what been done to search by Ocean Infinity. Now they are looking at the wider part. And when they found the flaperon, it was found in La Réunion Island, very far towards the west. what the experts have done, they make a replica of the flaperon, and they calculated the backdrift of the flaperon, where it starts and ended in Reunion. So the backdrift, they calculate, analyze it, and they have a spot in the area, but exactly it's quite difficult task. So they have an area where they agree to do the search, and they have searched in that area. So in detail, to us, we have done quite a very extensive job to find the. So I'm sure the Australian will ask the military, as what Professor Azizan was saying, Professor Dato Azizan was saying, that do you have that military playback of their radar? That is because of defense radar. You cannot tell the world that yes, we have, and this is what we use. So I'm sure it's been done, because the team also includes the
military.
Defense. Yeah.
On communications. Now I know you briefly brought up I think you're alluding to the former Navy officer, Australian Navy officer, who has now, come up with quite some extreme claims. I'll put it that way, saying, number one, he's come out saying, well, we searched in the wrong place, and we searched in the wrong place for far too long. And so it was a waste of time, waste of resources. Now, somewhat compounding to that, now I'd like to just go back to an NST exclusive. Back when this happened, in the month of March itself, on the 15th of March. So one of the exclusive stories that we put out was on the U-turning, the back turn of the plane, of MH370. So in this report, basically, the NST said that a new revelation suggests that Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 indeed made a turn back. The flight reached a waypoint called Igari in the South China Sea and banked west. Its transponder was still transmitting data. And for the benefit of our audience, waypoints are geographic locations worked out by calculating the Earth's longitude and latitude, and which help pilots navigate along established air corridors. So according to our source in the story, the flight was still squawking as it made the turn back. The reason why we can safely say that the unidentified contact was MH370 is because when it made that turn back, it was still squawking its ident number. Perhaps later on, Datuk, you can explain to us what this means. And this was registered on the radar screen, meaning that the transponder was still on. The source further added that this was later cross-checked with other sensors and analyzed, and says because the squawk code was clearly there even after it made the turn, and later the blip was still there. And just briefly, if I may, I'd just like to add this information coming from this source in our exclusive was corroborated by other sources. And in fact, the former Malaysia Airlines Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer Tan Sri Abdul Aziz Abdul Rahman, when interviewed by the NST, he also brought up the fact that he was puzzled on why the Air Force did not scramble its jets to investigate. If there was unknown contact, he said, and communications could not be established, it doesn't matter if it was flying on a commercial track or a military track. Jet fighters should have been scrambled because there was an airspace intrusion by an unknown aircraft. Your thoughts on that?
Very interesting, very, I think at that time, the late Tan Sri Aziz.
Right.
He's still sharp at that particular time. Yes, agreed that it's been squawked, but you must understand there are two radar systems that look at our airspace. One is the civil radar system called the secondary surveillance radar that have been used by civil organization, and in case of Malaysia, it's a DCA then, Civil Aviation Authority now, responsible, obligated to manage the airspace that we are given, part of the airspace that been carved out by ICAO. As I mentioned, it's called Flight Information Region. We have two. One is Kuala Lumpur Flight Information Region that covers Peninsular Malaysia towards Andaman Sea. The other one is the Kota Kinabalu Flight Information Region that covers Sabah, Sarawak and part of the South China Sea.
Right.
The middle is controlled by Singapore. When you talk about SCOAP, there's a code. That is military radar. Civil radar is not a code. Civil radar, they use a transponder, and once the radar sweep, the sweep, and then it gains the information from the aircraft, from the transponder, and it will give information to the air traffic controller of what aircraft it is, what airline it is, where it is flying, how high it is flying, what is the speed, and where it's going. Okay. And there are loads of information. In case of military radar, it's just a squawk. It's just a number. True, it does appear on radar, but it doesn't say which radar.
Okay.
So on the second day, we were told by the defense people that from the playback of the radar, and they found that the aircraft did turn back. For civil radar, our air traffic controller follow the aircraft, and once it's about to go into Vietnam airspace, our controller contact the pilot to say that change your frequency to Ho Chi Minh City air traffic control, and once you cross the airspace between Malaysia to border, Vietnam, you report to Ho Chi Minh City. And the waypoint that you mentioned, Igari, is seated right at the intersection of Malaysia airspace and Vietnam airspace. So we did that, and the pilot answered by saying that good night, Malaysia, MH3.
And that was the final handshake.
That's the last communication ever. So 14 minutes later, I think, Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City called Kuala Lumpur air traffic controller, said, where is MH370? So he said, we have told him that that he has to report to Ho Chi Minh. That's the start of the aircraft missing from overseas. Yes, it was reported that the military have detected it.
Yeah.
And why Tan Sri Aziz is asking why the military does not
intervene.
They don't call it intervene, they call it intercept with their
with their fighter jets.
I think that was also been asked to the Prime Minister then,
right,
Najib Razak, by CNN, and his answer is the military, because the aircraft is flying on the airways that is the correct airways, so they treat the aircraft as a friendly aircraft.
Oh, so this is the friend or foe?
Yeah.
Signal.
You must have remember the term the aircraft to be friendly, so they just.
Now if I remember correctly, in your explanation, you brought up that the military radar recording had been played back the same day, right? On March the 8th that year.
We were advised about the turn back on the second day.
On the second day.
Second day.
Basically, within those 2 days, the first 2 days, right? So you've already heard the military radar recording, you've seen it, and you've established that the aircraft has gone missing, and it was determined at that stage that, our discussion just prior had indeed made the turn back, the U-turn, and flew over the Malaysian peninsula. Why? Now this is the big why here. Why did we even search the South China Sea? Because that's where we first started the search.
When we're told about the aircraft is missing, the protocol of the search is you got to search where last seen on our radar screen. And the last point of where the aircraft drop off, I mean the image of the aircraft on the radar screen drop off, is at Igari, just after Igari, waypoint Igari. So the point of search, the first point of search, the first location of search will be at place where Igari is. So we have to search the surface of the South China Sea.
Right.
Igari lah, you know,
Okay.
down Igari.
Okay.
That's where, and we send a Malaysian MMEA, Malaysia Maritime Enforcement Agency ship, the first ship that goes there in the morning of the 8th, and they didn't find anything. That's the area we look at.
Right.
Because we only heard about the turn back on the second day, so we have to look at the South China Sea first, because
Right.
that's where our indication where the aircraft.
Okay.
We lost sight of the
Okay.
aircraft.
Again, this whole discussion came about because we do not want to waste any more resources, and we do not want to waste any more, I suppose, energy in terms of talking about, you know, what we did and didn't do in the past, right? So this hopefully this is able to quash whatever concerns was raised. I would love to play more of Prof's clip, but let me just summarize about the topography in terms of, you know, expanding the search area based on the debris flow. He did mention that the problem with the current model that we have today is that it's very coarse, especially for the ocean. And then what more, the betterment of, you know, the ocean that we're looking for, which is the Indian Ocean. It's very big and very broad. The radar, the to zone in the last crash site, if you can just pinpoint it, if not 10 kilometers, 50 kilometers, is great as well, because then you're not looking for a needle in a haystack of sorts. That is his argument lah. Like, how can we ensure that whatever efforts we put out in the future is not, you know, wasted?
Yeah.
Before the first search even started, we had assembled experts from all over the world, including from the manufacturer Boeing and others, and we, based on the data that was available, we asked them to plot an end-of-flight scenario. So the manufacturer, he's got a simulator where they can carry out various interpretation of flight scenarios, and so there were quite a lot of end-of-flight scenarios that played out, and so this end-of-flight scenario had provided a plot of areas where the airplane would have ended once it had exhausted all fuel on board. So like I did explain about the flaps earlier, that provides us enough information. The flaps were in the retracted position, so when the end-of-flight scenario started, the fuel exhaustion, or process started, and each engine started to flame out. The flaps were retracted, and the airplane went into a dive. All right. Now, dive could be many sorts of scenarios, and all of these were, looked at before we even commenced the first search. And what I want to share is that all of this, including radar data from civilian and other sources, was also examined at that time. Professor is highlighting it now, but 10 years ago this was already looked at. And I can assure you that all parties who were involved in the first search did take this into consideration. We respect the views that you mentioned earlier about the naval officer who has come out with a different scenario, but the question here is that the next search should happen soon, and before the next search happens, I'm certain that the ocean infinity experts would have looked at data that we have, data that they obtained, and that will then help them to determine which area they're going to search next. I am sure no stones will be left unturned before they embark on that project. I hope that helps.
When you say that it's just like finding
needle in
a
a
needle
haystack.
in the haystack, I got to add another phrase. You have to find the right haystack first.
Right.
If you are looking at the wrong haystack, you'll never find the aircraft.
And I suppose that's one of the reasons why the professor is completely highlighting further about we have like our radar. I mean, we can't just rely on the satellite ping. We actually have to also cross-reference it with the radar data that we have, just to zero in further in terms of the crash site, the possible crash site of MH370. Again, one more thing that I would like to also relay what Professor mentioned is that because this is very subjective, right? Whether or not the search should be continued, or I mean, we've heard a lot of feedback as well from our readers. It's going to cost more money, etc., etc. And earlier on, Dr. Sri, you mentioned that actually it's this no cure, no fee thing it's not anything new. The 600 million, more than 600 million ringgit, I suppose it goes through the fleet of the logistics aspect. But as far as Ocean Infinity, they have been practicing this kind of agreement since the get-go. Professor is one of those that actually is looking ahead in a sense of like, let's now move on by having a memorial for MH370 as well as MH17 at KLIA, meaning build a monument of sorts to kind of understand where we are at. Just want to understand this. How important is it to ensure closure for MH370?
I have to state this, that the agreement with Ocean Infinity does not cost the government anyway. Of course, like if you talk about the officers' time, that's officers' time. But apart from that, we did not pay them a single cent because they are unable to locate the aircraft. I don't know where this 650 million come from.
Right.
That is maybe that's what Ocean Infinity spent to do the search. I think that's come from their own money. Talking about memorial for the MH370 and MH17, there was a discussion. The Chinese government said no, we are not going to have anything like that. We don't agree for their own reason. Australia would like to do it on the west coast of Australia, near to Fremantle. That does not goes well because the Chinese government doesn't agree to it. We would like to have, because there's some closure, but some of the other it's not been done. I left the service, I retired, then so nothing done. So I think they leave it as that. But hopefully with the next search by Ocean Infinity, we can find it. We can find the wreckage, so that everyone will know what really happens, why the aircraft turns back, why it flies to that particular part of the world.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because the depth of the sea at that particular area is about 4,000, 5,000, and even 6,000 meters down. And when we talk about to search southern of Indian Ocean, we have a small window because during winter time, June, July, August, the wave is very high. It's not a good time to do the search because you need a very calm sea to do the search.
Right. Okay, Sir Aslam.
And the area is huge. That's what you mentioned.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sri.
Yeah.
Sir Aslam, very briefly, in terms of your, I suppose, stance in resuming the search.
We need to search on. It's important we find the wreckage. We need to determine what happened, and once we understand what has happened that caused this accident, it will allow the aviation community to learn how we can avoid such occurrence in the future. At the same time, the families need closure as well.
Mm-hmm.
And from the investigation fraternity, we need to find this aeroplane. We need to determine what happened, and finally issue a final report on it.
Can I just ask you, yes or no? All the theories that we have up until now, 10 years on, I mean, apart from the fact that 30 or so parts have been found, debris parts have been found, but the theories that we've come to up until now, can we just say that they're speculative?
Theories are theories, and I come from the Aircraft Investigation Bureau, where we focus on facts, and if we can't back up the theory, then it just remains a theory.
So, speculation.
There are a lot of armchair experts out
Mm-hmm.
there. If you can't put an ounce of facts on what you are trying to portray, then I think best leave it to the experts.
All right.
To me,
Yes,
it's speculative. Speculation, because as what has been mentioned by Aslam, I agree with him. Yes, we should go and search, look for it, determine what happened, and what they speculate. That is just a speculation, because there's no evidence. They cannot be backed up by evidence.
Right.
That's why if you listen to the experts, we have to get the vital parts of the aircraft, especially the black boxes. Hopefully, we're still able to analyze and download what is being recorded in the black boxes.
Right.
Okay, I'd like to thank our guest that's here on set. First up, of course, Datuk Sri Azharuddin. Thank you so much for being on Beyond the Headlines. On behalf of the panel, we would just like to again extend our gratitude, and also to Sir Aslam, thank you so much for being on Beyond the Headlines.
Most welcome.
Right, to our audience back at home, stay tuned because we have a very special segment later, particularly on Taylor Swift. Don't go anywhere.
Can you confirm reports that Singapore paid for an exclusive arrangement for her not to play in another Southeast Asian nation? And how do you respond to comments from some other Southeast Asian political leaders that it undermines the spirit of cooperation of ASEAN to have such an exclusive deal? Are you encountering any bad blood here from other Southeast Asian nations?
Well, Taylor Swift is performing in Singapore. We negotiated our agencies negotiated an arrangement with her to come to Singapore and perform, and to make Singapore her only stop in Southeast Asia. And there was a certain incentives provided to her from our Tourism Development Fund. It really is a post-COVID fund to revive tourism after COVID. And a deal was reached. And so it has turned out to be a very successful arrangement. I don't see that as being unfriendly. Sometimes one country makes a deal, sometimes another country does. I don't explicitly see you say you will come here only on condition that you will go other places.
Well, I don't know about you, but I wasn't one of those who actually enjoyed the concert and listening to the New Romantics. I do want to talk about this beef that has apparently come up between Singapore and its neighboring countries on Taylor Swift, I might add. Now, driving the wedge even further, I'd say, giving our current standing with Singapore, because, of course, the country had its exclusive concert with the artist recently. And for that, I would like to invite Arif Omar, senior reporter for Lifestyle Entertainment Desk. Welcome, Arif, to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you for having me.
Right. So I just also want to backtrack a little bit, right? A couple of days ago, Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien,
I believe that's how you
that's how you pronounce it, defended a so-called secretive engagement where it meant giving Singapore an exclusive deal to have Tay performing in Singapore.
Only. The issue unexpectedly reared its head at the ASEAN-Australia Summit in Melbourne, a sober affair typically more preoccupied with matters of security and economic growth, I suppose. And the Prime Minister, the Singaporean Prime Minister, I suppose he had to address the matter since he was asked about it, as we saw in the clip. But yeah, what a time and place to have to bring up the Taylor Swift concert rights. And what's sparking even more controversy in this whole drama, this Tay, as you put it, Tay drama, is that Singapore has been accused of throwing cash at Swift to stop her from appearing in other locations. So, Arif, let me just start with this then. What's the deal here? Singapore, do they just want Taylor Swift to themselves? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and then I would like to add, like, do you think fans would, shake it off easily?
There you go, pun dropped.
Well, it certainly seems like that's the case, isn't it? But I think there are a lot of other things going on in the background, and a lot of focus has been put on the governments and the squabbles between our neighboring countries as well. But at the end of the day, nobody is talking about what does Taylor Swift want or what does Taylor Swift need. So in order to perhaps give a different perspective on the matter, we might have to look at her tour itself, her Eras tour, right? This is a very big deal for this artist because it celebrates her 17 years of her career, and at the same time she'll be performing 10 of her studio albums, material from 10 of her studio albums to celebrate this milestone moment for her. And at the moment, she's touring. She started touring from early last year, and it's going to carry on until the end of this year, sometime in December. So that's close to 2 years of her life going around the world, entertaining her fans all over the place. But as if you've noticed that her Eras tour, the movie that came out prior to this, it's a really huge production. It's a really complex kind of show that she's putting on for her fans. So all of this encapsulates a lot of personnel, her crew, her musicians, her dancers, and it also means that she needs a lot of equipment and gear. She has to travel around, right, the world to bring all this stuff with her. So it's not an easy task. It's quite an ordeal actually. So for her to be playing in all these different locations around the world, she has to, or at least her team has to make sure that everything is in order, everything is great, the logistics and all, and of course the safety aspect as well for everybody involved. So if you look at a tour schedule, right, the concerts that she's played and her upcoming concerts, you will notice that around the world, take Asia for example, she's only played in Japan so far, and now she's currently playing in Singapore. So that's two countries in the whole of Asia. She's not playing in China, she's not playing in India, she's not even playing in, usually people go to like South Korea or Taiwan or Hong Kong as well. So only 2 in the whole of Asia. And if you look at the other legs of her tour, it's the same thing. Like in, say, South America, I think she only played in two countries. In Europe, it's a big place, many countries. She didn't even play in France. She didn't play in Germany. So maybe the question should be rephrased to what does Taylor Swift want? Because if you compare her, say, to another big artist, or the one that came recently, Coldplay, right? They played in many more regions and many more territories. When they were in the Asia Pacific region, they played in Australia, they played in New Zealand. Taylor Swift is only going to be playing in, she played before coming to Singapore, she played in Australia alone. And for Coldplay in the South American territories, they played in quite a number of countries. as opposed to Taylor Swift, who only played in 2. So I would assume, or at least figure that it's because of the immensity of her show and the complexity of that sort of made her, I don't know, maybe her management or the people behind her to consider maybe just having a base. Like, for example, in the Southeast Asian region, just playing in one country, for example, as opposed to doing what, like if Coldplay, they played in different places, right? They played in Bangkok, they went to Philippines, they went to Indonesia, aside from Malaysia, of course, and Singapore and Thailand. So for her, maybe for her or for her people, they figure that, you know, with all these logistical problems and all this, why not just base her in one particular spot? Say the best spot, I don't know whether it's the best spot, but in one particular spot in a certain region, so that it will be easy for her to perform. She doesn't have to, you know, worry about traveling to other countries and reacclimatizing herself. And also for the production team, they don't need to lug around all this, you know, big equipment and all that. And they also need to recalibrate at each different venue. So if it's in one particular venue, then it would be easier for them to just, you know, concentrate on giving the best show to all who come. Yep. And I suppose for Taylor Swift, she's the biggest thing right now in terms of, you know, music artists. So for her, I don't think she's worried about going here or going there because people will come to her, right? So in this case, it kind of works for her, I guess.
But surely this sort of like exclusivity, I mean, is well accepted for Singaporeans or in Singapore, but for Malaysians, or at least, I mean, the first of all these allegations initially, the first attack was sent by Thailand, where,
yes.
You know, at that time, we really thought it was just a rumor, right? Until the Singapore Prime Minister
confirmed it himself.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you think it would affect future, I suppose, you know, standings among artists that's going to come in here and especially within the region, right? Because obviously for us Malaysians, or at least for us concert goers, we wouldn't want to have to travel all the way out just to you know, enjoy one performer. And again, a fan but not a Swiftie, what would that say to somebody who has been supporting this artist for so long, you know, to see that, oh my God, everything's just dollars and cents at the end of the day?
Well, actually, that would depend on the artists themselves, because different artists, they have different priorities, they have different ways of doing things. So, of course, this is an unprecedented move. So it's something new, something different that nobody expected, at least in our region. So it might, there are a few things that could happen. I mean, it could, like you said, you know, probably create anxiety among fans or whatever. But at the same time, what I see happening, it might not be a norm. It might not be normalized per se, because it still depends on the individual artists that at least travel to our region, right? So again, like if you've compared Taylor Swift to other big artists that came, like Coldplay, or like, you know, so they don't behave the same way in the sense that in terms of their touring schedule, the venues they play at, and you know, as well as the concerts that they put out itself, they are of a different scale, they are of a different magnitude. Some international artists, like Ed Sheeran, who was recently here, his concert is different from Coldplay. And I'm sure Coldplay's concert is very different from Taylor Swift's. So it depends on what the artists require as well, what they need, and to get the best presentation of their creative works, right? Because you don't want to disappoint the fans by just, okay, I'll go here, I'll go there, I'll go here, and then they sort of dilute themselves and they don't give the best to their fans. So again, I think it depends on the type of production. And for Taylor Swift's, the Eras, her tour, her world tour, that is an extraordinary production that requires a lot of planning, a lot of thinking beforehand, right? And then the execution itself also requires a lot of focus and a lot of resources as well. So
would it explain why certain artists has yet to reach the region, like Beyonce or who other artists are we actually looking
I mean,
at?
as far as I know, some have come and vowed never to come back. Because obviously, I was going to ask you actually, when these artists, these singers, these performers, especially from the West, they come over, a lot of considerations have to be be accounted for because of the sheer difference in terms of culture and thinking, and ultimately it comes down to a lot of it is politics, right? So would it be that for most of these performers, one thing that comes to mind is our conservatism here? I mean, in the sense that we're a bit more conservative than Singapore. Let's just put it out there.
Coldplay did perform here, but there was a kill switch.
That was a whole debacle because of the what was the name of the band, the British band that came before?
1975,
right.
78,
the
74,
debacle
79.
thing that went on during the performance. So do you think all of this is pushing away performers from performing in our country?
All of these are unprecedented occurrences, like the thing that happened with the whole fiasco with the 1975. Nobody would have expected them to behave that way. Of course, on hindsight, some people have said that, well, they have created trouble in other countries as well. But at the same time, they came and performed in Malaysia prior to this debacle, a few years before. Okay. And it all went smoothly. Nothing happened. So it wasn't a thing that we could have predicted. I mean, the organizers could have predicted, or they were not privy to that kind of.
Right.
Yeah. So in that sense,
that's an isolated case of sorts, as opposed to why some artists memang vow not to come, even from the get-go.
Well, I mean, it depends on a lot of things actually. Because for the artists, it depends on the artists themselves. Like what are they trying to, aside from their creative aspect, what are they trying to present or to promote, right? Sometimes they have their own agendas and stuff like that, or things that they feel strongly about. When you were saying about different cultures in different countries and things like that, some of it political, some of it religious or whatever. So it actually depends on the artists themselves. If they are not willing to meet halfway, then they might choose not to perform in these so-called countries, if that is their wish. But at the same time, also it depends on who is advising them. Maybe they are not familiar with all these other countries, and then maybe their management team or other people, or fans or whatever, have been, sort of giving them the wrong impression of a certain country or a certain territory, and that sort of colors their perception of that particular territory. So that could also be one of the reasons.
I think one takeaway, or at least one artist that if any situation, particular tour director is actually watching our episode, right? Take cues from Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish actually went out and about and actually toured all over Bukit Bintang as a normal tourist. And then I think I agree when you mentioned maybe the intel to the artists were not necessarily that great. It's not giving the full picture. Hence, that's why in some situations it landed Taylor Swift having the exclusive deal with Singapore, because of course when you talk about Southeast Asia, the first thing in mind is Singapore, right? That's kind of like the ideal sort of image that
well, everyone seems to know where Singapore is, but nobody knows where Malaysia is.
Yeah.
The minute you cross over the
Correct.
Asian continent. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I mean, but yes, it's entirely up to the artist and how they plan their tours and so on. But the saying, when in Rome, yes, you have to come to a middle ground. I think they should feel compelled to do it, because without the fans, they wouldn't have a career. Don't you think that that's something more singers from the West should be more open to?
Yeah. Very briefly, because we have to wrap up.
Yeah.
Well, I think they try to do their best. Of course, you want to try to please everybody, but you can't be pleasing everybody at the same time. It is that irony of sorts whereby, for some of the artists as well, they're just too famous, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, you can't.
Fair point,
You
though.
can't expect them to bend over to everything, although
Yeah.
most will try to accommodate.
Yeah. Right. But it's just nice to see, these people, famous people, as you put it.
Until the fame drops. Like, weren't you just at Tom Jones recently?
I was, yeah. By the way, it was a really great performance. Tom Jones is 83 years old. He's going to turn 84 in June. And he's got a good pair of lungs still on him.
Yeah.
Like, that guy can sing.
I mean, speaking of which, Malaysia seems to be a very good place for comeback artists or even the oldies, right? I mean, I won't even say oldies, like oldie but goldie, of sorts. I watched Sting, what, a year ago, something like that. But he was great too.
Actually, I think, there's a lot of fear-mongering that we might lose a lot of these international artists and big artists, and nobody wants to come to Malaysia to perform. But if you look at our track record so far, we've had, you have hits and misses, obviously, but we've also had a very diverse variety of artists and from different genres as well. And I mean, recently you had Ed Sheeran who came, and then last year was a bumper year of sorts because you had big stars like Coldplay, you had Muse, you had one of the biggest K-pop girl groups, Blackpink, and
I remember that,
like you were saying, you went to see Sting. You had One Republic and Billie Eilish also. She came last year. So these are huge artists, right? So, and you also have all the other artists in between, like some maybe not so big. You have indie artists. You also have a lot of artists from Indonesia. From different genres like R&B, rock. You even have metal bands coming to Malaysia. So it's quite diverse, and there's like something for everyone. So you might not get everything that you want, but it's still a vibrant, it's still a thriving sort of concert circuit that we have here in Malaysia, right?
I mean, but just coming back to my point just now, these big top artists, these very famous people, it'll be nice, to see more of them come down to earth a little bit and join us all peasants here, just trying to enjoy
mere mortals.
the music.
I will tell you who I'm actually excited to watch or catch. Incubus, April, soon. So again,
there you go.
Exactly. Thank you so much again, Arif, for being here on this particular segment with us. Hazwin, my co-host, my trusty co-host,
thank you so much.
To our audience, thank you for always consistently staying tuned to us, staying true to us. Now, if you like this particular episode, don't forget to hit that like button, comment, also subscribe. Also, turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. This will give you updates not just about Beyond the Headlines, but also other exclusive reports on NSC Online. My name is Amalina Kamal. Don't forget to catch us next week. I'll see you again. Thank you.